Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to hand over to Graham Morris, a Member of Parliament, to say a few words.
Thanks, Derek. Thank you. Can you hear me all right? Yeah. Derek's my oldest friend, and he gave me a bit of advice there. He said, Graham, keep it short and sweet because people want to go and enjoy themselves. Brilliant, funny speech from Dave Temple. Honestly, I love him dearly. That was fantastic. I can't possibly follow that, but I just want to say a few words. I want to say how proud I am, how honoured I am that you've asked me to come along today. This is my village. You know, my dad, grandfathers, uncles, cousins, all worked at Murton Colliery. Now I've got a deep bond and affection with Murton and with the pit. I want to thank the Murton Banner Group for the excellent work they do throughout the year and today. They're a real credit to our community. And I want to say a special thank you to Julie Griffiths, who I know is a member of the group, but does all sorts of other work as well. Occasions like this don't just happen by accident. An enormous amount of work and planning has to go into it. So I want to thank all the staff at the Glebe Centre for the great work they have done. And that buffet looks fantastic. And thanks to Derek and all the volunteers from the Murton Heritage Centre for the Murton Heritage Society for the excellent work they've done in preparing and presenting the photographic exhibition. Absolutely outstanding. I just want to I am a politician, so I want to be a bit political for a minute or two, if you'll allow me. I love this community, and I feel that we suffer some terrible injustices. I think there's an enormous debt, a debt of honour that's owed by the nation to miners, their widows, and to communities like this. The colliery in Murton was sunk in 1838, stopped production, remember it well, in November 1991 and closed a few months later. We mined the coal that fueled the Industrial Revolution, that fueled the fires of industry that made Britain great, and we should take great pride in that. Mining was a dangerous and continued to be a dangerous occupation, and many paid a heavy price, not just by losing their lives, but the toll it took on health, with emphysema, chest diseases, and other conditions and injuries. Going back still further, the life of a miner was hard, particularly in the early days. Conditions were cruel, dark, and dangerous. Fatalities were commonplace. Miners had to endure poverty wages, job insecurity, tied accommodation, company shop, a complete lack of employment rights. And many miners were left at the mercy of unscrupulous mine owners like Lord Londonderry. It's hard to imagine, but over the lifetime of Murton Colliery, just over 150 years, more than 400 men and boys lost their lives. That's without counting those who were killed when the shaft was sunk. There were 2 mining disasters with multiple fatalities. And it was against this background of hardship that the values and founding principles of our trade union and labour movement were formed. Comradeship, solidarity, and collective struggle. These values were the difference between life and death underground. And on the surface, they would guide the political life of our community and other mining communities to win better terms and conditions, as well as new political, civil and industrial rights. Through collective action and solidarity, working communities like Murton were transformed, not only transforming our village, but the whole country. The end of child labour, the introduction of free education, limits on the working week, paid holidays, the creation of the National Health Service, the right to vote, the right to strike, and the right to have sick pay, health and safety and employment rights, these weren't given lightly. They were hard fought for. They were hard won by the organisation, by the struggles, and by the commitment of working people, particularly the miners, who are always in the vanguard of such struggles. For mining communities, a significant event occurred on the 1st of January 1947, when one of my predecessors, Manny Shinwell, who was Asian MP and the Minister for Fuel and Power, delivered for the people the nationalisation of the coal industry. In the decades that followed, pay, terms and conditions significantly improved. New technologies increased production, and facilities, once exceptions like pithead baths, became the norm. In the decades that followed, working people were able to exercise increasing power, not only through the ballot box, but directly through an assertive trade union movement. In 1984, the Conservative government sought to reverse this progress and went to war, not against Iraq or Russia or a foreign power, but against ordinary working people in our communities. And Margaret Thatcher characterised the miners as the enemy within. Our parents and grandparents, who had worked all of their lives, many having fought for our country during the First and Second World Wars, V.C. McNally amongst them, were now the enemy of the Thatcher government. It's arguable that the miners' strike represents one of the darkest periods in our history. Certainly there was hardship, certainly there was struggle, but there was great comradeship. Dave mentioned the distribution centre here. One of my earliest memories is when the French trades unionists, the French miners and CGT, delivered all those turkeys at Christmas, and he came in a big Pantechnicon, can you remember? It was in the old welfare hall, and we put them in the cloakroom, and the pipes were there, and the turkeys were so cold, the pipes burst and flooded the cloakroom. Anyway, moving along, within a decade, once thriving communities, within a decade of the strike, had lost their industry. Murton closing 1992, stopped production in 91. The loss of wages and employment led to a decline. But what Margaret Thatcher didn't realise was she would never be able to break our spirit or our community. 40 years on, we continue to turn the tide. The physical scars of the industrial landscape, the pit heaps and so on, they have all been removed. The miners' strike is an important part of our working class, labour and trade union history. And while the angers and scars remain for those of us who lived through it, I take comfort and solace in the words of one of my personal political heroes, Tony Benn. And he said this, I'm almost finishing. There's no final victory, there's no final defeat. There is just one constant battle to be fought over and over again. Friends, neighbours, comrades, the battle continues. And it's for our generation and the next to stand on the shoulders of the giants that went before us, to ensure that we will embody the values that were forged in the heat of the pit, to fight for a better future for our children and grandchildren against those in politics and society who seek to take away hope and opportunity. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the day.